Mullings here on the network, and we're here with Tim, and we're going to be chatting a little bit about the interim business. I know MRI in the past has referred to it as contract, and I want to respect that. I also want you to think about interim in a different way, and I know it was one of the things that attracted me back to MRI, and I saw that that was one of the large revenue streams and futures of the sort of talent access model in general moving forward. So, Tim, I want to come out of the gate with you, and what are the characteristics and opportunities for an owner in bringing the interim business into their perm business?
Joe, I think it's such an integral part of what it is that we do. It's we've in the past, I think we've done a bit of a disservice by making interim and perm seem like two completely different models, and we trained on it differently, and we taught it and coached it in really two different silos. In my opinion, they're two sides of the same coin, or opposite sides of the same coin. They're on the same continuum. It's another way to provide talent to our client. And in my opinion, we should be agnostic about that, whether it's perm or contract, interim, whatever you want to call it. Whatever makes most sense for the client is the way that we should deliver that talent to the client. From our owner perspective, our owners have done an incredible job of building really strong, deep relationships with clients all over the country and all over the world. And as you know, Joe, I think that's the hardest part of any sales process, right? Building that rapport, building that trust. Every study shows that people buy from the people that they know and trust. Our owners have already done a great job on that. They've done that hard work. Let's make sure that our clients know that we can offer talent access to them in myriad ways, whether that be perm or interim, SOW, whatever matters. It's another fantastic and really important service that we have to offer, and it goes without saying, another really important revenue stream for our offices as well too.
You had mentioned when I first reached out and wanted to understand what the interim business was about. And by the way, network, just an FYI, you'll have read this already. Just so you know, we have moved MRI from being a sales and marketing company to a commercial company. And we've also now had our commercial forward team. You'll call it a sales team. To me, it's a commercial team. Both Tim and Colin are now going to be providing talent access solutions on both the interim side and the perm side. There's no differentiation any longer within the network. So we're not just advertising that this is what you should do as an owner of an organization. It's what we're doing at a corporate level. So I just want to make sure I put that footnote down. The announcement was made today across the organization. And it's because, as Tim pointed out, is talent access is a full solution. And when you can do that with a client, there's a number of things, insight you gain when you have the ear of them from an interim side and a perm side. And Tim, share with the audience, with the network, because it's what caught me, the benefit you get from having that interim access.
Yeah, I think everybody right away, Joe, jumps to the financial benefit to our network members by having contractors out on assignment. And of course, that's huge. It's a steady revenue stream. And I could spend a lot of time talking about that and the benefits of it just as a separate topic. But I think even more importantly than that is the way that it ties us in even more closely with our client by being able to offer both perm and interim solutions. It really changes the nature of the relationship with the end client when you have interim contractors on assignment there. For one thing, you've got a built-in reason, and I would say a mandate, to have regular communication with the client and the contractor to make sure you're aware of anything that's going on, any changes, new products, new programs, new initiatives, whatever that might be. You've got the contractor there who's basically a built-in source of information for us on what's going on site with our client. Not going to share anything confidential, of course, but what departments are growing, what other managers are using contractors or interim talent on a regular basis. But you become, I think, really an important part of the overall workforce strategy of that client when you're offering both solutions. And like I said, I think it really changes the way that we're perceived. Generally in interim, we're working more on the procurement side, and in perm, you're working more on the HR side. So it's good to have contacts and audiences and internal client champions in both those areas. And I think that by offering both, that really helps lead to that.
Yeah, and one of the things that as soon as we started exploring the interim solutions, the first thing I thought of was, and again, just stay with me, owners, on this. Every year, I'm going to go with my key clients, and I'm going to say, okay, ABC company, what are we trying to get done this year? From a sales perspective, marketing perspective, manufacturing ops perspective, and what do the gaps look like in your organization? Now, keep in mind, we might be able to solve those gaps with a perm position or interim positions. And let's think about that economically, because the interim gives you that flexibility, which right now is just so important, but it also falls on the balance sheet differently, right? From a cost perspective, it becomes an expense versus an FTE. And also what it does, and here's something that was really cool, and it was an aha moment for me. When you're in perm, most of the time, you've got to go through HR. And you've also got to have that budget worked into the hiring plan for that year. But when you go in on the interim side, typically that is pushed down to a line item from an expense, and the hiring manager does not have to look for blessing from HR in a large number of organizations.
Yeah, I think that's just one of the reasons why it typically tends to happen a lot faster. We talk about the similarities between interim and perm, and there are a lot. One of the key differences is the speed with which everything happens. Typically an interim assignment gets filled in much more quickly than a permanent assignment does, or permanent requisition. And as you can imagine why. Again, less involvement from HR, less concern with being slotted into the right salary bands and the benefits, et cetera. And it just it happens a lot faster on the interim side than it does on the perm side.
Yeah. What else should we know about the interim business, from a difficulty to implement or ease of implementation, or just like, how do I get started?
I want to talk about the get started in 1 second. I think something really important to know, especially for people who have been in this business for a while, like many of our network owners have been around for a long time. The way that interim is perceived in the workforce by both our clients and our candidates has changed hugely from when I first got in this business 25 years ago. Back in the day, interim temp staffing, it was low level, low margin, low skill set, high turnover business. The companies, they didn't use temporary employees, interim contractors, for what I would call mission critical roles. It was really it was outside of the core competency. It was the data entry and customer service types roles that were more common in interim staffing. Now our clients are using interims in extremely important mission critical roles, extremely high level ones, C-suite positions even. And from the candidate perspective, such a higher percent of the workforce is now open to an interim assignment. And when I first got into business, the only people that work as temporaries were people that didn't have the skill sets to keep a full-time job, right? So that's really changed. We have a lot of career contractors. We have a lot of people who are way, way more open to that than they ever were in the past. So if you still are of the mindset that, temp staffing, interim staffing is that low level kind of negative connotation type business, that business is still out there. That's not what we specialize in. That's not what we focus on. That's not the type of services we deliver to our clients in general.
Yeah, and that's critical to understand, because that was my mindset. Look, I've been at this 3 decades, and when Bert was trying to pitch me on this, he introduced me to the guy from People 2.0 at the United in Orlando, and he's like, "Hey, we're doing this contractor thing." I'm like, "Oh, bro, come on, no." And then as I dug into it and actually listened, it made a lot of sense. And you just pointed out mission critical roles now, and I see myself as a sort of NFL talent agent as we enter into this. It's like, these people are high value assets that you deploy, you help them manage through, and then you keep your eyes open for them for the next gig and their next gig and their next gig. And you start to get them deployed out over time. I get information back from the marketplace, the G2 you talked about. I get a balance on my revenue stream, recurring and non-recurring. And it also gives me the opportunity to broaden my sort of offerings into a client. And all 3 of those are a huge win for me.
Yeah, I think another thing, Joe, that's really changed is, for a long time, high-level executive search companies did not want to be associated with interim search for those reasons we talked about. It was a really different business model. It had somewhat of the negative connotation was perceived as the low level, low margin, kind of messy business. Well, that's really changed. Those negative connotations for the most part have gone completely away. And so many of our really successful network members are realizing that they can integrate contract or interim into their portfolio of services. And it's not a zero-sum game. It's not like the more interim they do, the less perm they're going to do, or vice versa. It really piggybacks off each other. It lends towards a better and more business overall. You can really develop relationships in a really strong way by offering both, as opposed to just one or the other, or being siloed in those.
Yeah. So putting my foot in the pool as we close out, do I have to hire 4 people to get this going? Do I have to bring on a big overhead? I mean, that's the big question.
No, but if you do that, we'll definitely help you train them and coach them and select them and everything else, right? But no, you don't have to do that, Joe. In my opinion, the easiest way, the best way to get into this business is it's really it's brand awareness. It's making sure that our clients know that we offer this other service. That what they are, our clients are so used to thinking of us just in the executive search perm placement, because that's what we're great at and have been so good at for a long time. But we have a very robust, thriving, profitable, extremely skilled, interim offering as well too. So we just need to talk that up. We need to make sure we're introducing that in every conversation, whether it be with a client, with a prospect, with a candidate. If we mention that all the time, leads will follow. I like to say this, one of our most successful interim offices is fully blended, 100% blended between perm and contract on the same desk. All their guys offer both. And what they like to say is, let the client's need drive the solution, right? We don't prescribe medicine until we've assessed what the illness is, right? So we figure out what is the client's problem, what are their challenges, what are their goals, and let that lead to whether it's an interim or perm or SOW or whatever the solution might be. That's where we get to be our consultative salespeople and help them structure a workforce solution that best fits their needs and what they're trying to get to.
Awesome. That's a strong way to close on this. Tim, I appreciate your time. We're going to have more of these to share with the network, because I think just creating attention and awareness around it for our own network will have people lean in. So great point there.
Thanks, Joe.
All right,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Chat with you soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye. This has been Joe Mullings with The Network.